Second grade, we're going to begin our Square One art project this week. The first thing you need to know is we're going to make artwork that is one square, and everybody's going to get this special piece of paper with a slot for your name and your last name, your grade, and your teacher. And we're going to take a moment to fill that out. And for our project, we're going to start with a painting, just wet paint into wet paint, and then we will have another class where we collage a certain design on top of it. So for today, I've got a bucket of clean water, and I've got some liquid watercolor paints, and I have a paintbrush. As you remember, we want to treat the brush nicely, keep the bristles running the same direction, dancing on tippy toes. And I start by wetting my paintbrush in the water, just getting some water on it. And I'm going to begin with a color. We're not making a design on this painting because it's just serving as a colorful background for our collage. So I'm just going to splash orange paint around on my paper. And this paper isn't designed as watercolor paper, so we don't want to overdo it. We don't want to put too much color down. Maybe you want to do some lines. That's fine too. I'm going to wash my paintbrush and switch to my next color, which today is this red. So I just lift the little trap door there, dip, and I tap off any extra paint, and I can start to paint. And you can put red paint right into the orange paint, and maybe they'll mix and blend a little bit on your paper. I don't really know what's going to happen. You saw me just now take a little bit of water without any paint on my brush, just water to move that paint a little bit more. I think I want some red around the edge. So I'm going to put my red paint all around the border. Now I'm going to the line at the top of our square, and I don't need to go past that line because that is the top of our artwork. Above this is all just so that we get our artwork back in the right class when we submit our finished projects to a place. They will print it on materials like coffee mugs and mouse pads and phone covers and keychains, but the square is the only part that we will see. You can see how the water makes the paint spread. That's one of the magical things about watercolor paint. And I put this messy mat down underneath my paper so that I can go right off the edges without worrying about making a big mess in the classroom. Got that habit of getting my paintbrush wet every time I change colors. So I'm put a lot of clear water down, and I'm going to put some more orange into that clear water and watch how it spreads. A little bit. If I had different paper, my paint would spread even more. And I've saved some white paper so far because I still have this blue color to work with. I'm going to put some blue paint around on my paper as well. Might go around that little orange piece there. Your design does not have to look like my design at all. Since this isn't supposed to be a painting of any subject, you could say that this painting is abstract. It does not represent a house or an animal or a person or a place. It's just paint moving around the paper. Now I might move a little bit of this blue right on top of my red which makes a color. That there. We want to cover all of the white paper with our watercolor paint. I've already come a little out right to those. The mass will the on. When I mix the orange on top of the blue, you see kind of a brown color showing up. And I'm dipping and wiping my paintbrush. Dip and wipe. I never tap, because that would splash somewhere. So I might want to dot in, even if red and red here. Now that I've finished this painting, I'm going to put it on the dry rack where it will wait for me, and next week we will finish this art project. Second grade, welcome back. This is what my painting looks like after it is dried out on the dry rack. I'm pretty happy with it. And now we are going to work on part 2 of our Square One project, which is to design an insect. You have probably learned some things about drawing or designing insects, or the parts of an insect. We know that an insect has a head, and it has a thorax, and it has an abdomen. Usually it's sort of like that, like a snowman, small, medium, and large. We know that they have 6 legs, 3 on each side. And we know that they have antennas as well. So that's your basic insect. Some of them have wings, some do not. Some have larger square-shaped heads, some do not. Some have big old round eyes and some do not. So they're all different, but they all have a head. They all have a head, a thorax, and an abdomen, and 6 legs and some antennae at the top. Well, why are we talking about that? It has to do with our project here and how we are going to take a black piece of paper that has been cut to the correct size, and we're going to create a collage showing symmetry, just like our insect is the same on the left and the right. Our collage of an insect is going right on top to show symmetry. So you're going to get a half sheet of black paper. Should be just halfway as wide as your square. And we're going to design our bug on that half sheet. So I will draw a head and thorax and the abdomen. I'm going pretty much from the top of my paper to the bottom, leaving about an inch on either end. And now I can put an antenna on one side. So I'm just thinking about half of my bug. We're going to do positive space and negative space. I'm going to cut out half of the bug, and you'll see it on the other side. Now that I've drawn the head, abdomen, thorax, I need to add some legs. And I'm not just going to draw lines, I'm going to make sure my legs have a thickness. That way I can cut them out. Now I have 3 legs and half of my insect, and I will cut it out. Don't do that. We want to keep all of this paper together, so we're going to cut carefully along the line. This is a problem, but I'll fix it later. This is the way we need to cut along the drawing line carefully. Okay. Now that I have my 2 halves to my insect cut out, now that I have my insect cut out, I can get my painting back here. My painting will serve as the background for my insect, and this shape that I have cut out will now be the positive side of the insect and the negative side of the insect. This space is showing through here. So we're talking about positive and negative space. I could flip it this direction here. Depends on which part of my painting I want to see. But I kind of liked it better this way. So now I have this loose piece here, and I'm going to just use a glue stick to stick down this whole side and have my insect collage ready for my square one project. I'm lining up the right side of my picture nice and neat, like so. And now I can put glue all on these skinny pieces. You must be sure that your square one project is well glued down on the edges. So I'm looking for careful craftsmanship along the edges before we stick this down. It might be easier to take the back of your shape and just rub glue on it with a piece of scrap paper underneath. That way you make sure you go all around the edges of the shape you're trying to glue down. This is my black paper. This is my negative space that I want to stick on top of my beautiful painting. There, once I've got glue all around the edges, I just have to line it up carefully. I'm gonna make sure my top is right and my bottom is right. And then you probably won't even know about that crack anymore, that little split in my creation. Now I've got a little part that's sticking up here, so I'm going to add a little glue to that so that my project has got top quality when I send it off to square one. Got a little hanging off the edge here, and I don't want that either, so I'm going to trim that piece away. And there is a pretty nice creation.